Hey YouTube, what's up? Welcome in. We are back with another react, and I know I said in my previous video I'm probably going to be slowing down on them, but this one's worth the, this one has juice that is definitely worth the squeeze. So, our boy Tobo has made a video talking about Arknights Endfield, and it looks like it's probably going to be leaning towards a more critical approach to it and the shortcomings of it and everything like this, and I think that's good. I think criticism as a whole is nothing short of an absolute positive to keep a game healthy, okay? Games only hit the heights we want them to hit when we tell them where the issue is, okay? Because if we just blindly glaze this, if we blindly glaze a video like this, or a game like this, I should say, and just let it go on and be released in the state it's in, it turns into Genshin Impact. It is popular, sure, but it dies off. People stop caring about it because they don't innovate and they barely even maintain. Arknights, on the other hand of things, typically do innovate and like to be creative. Sometimes it can be too ambitious and they need to get pulled back on a little bit to get the product we want and the product they're also happy with, okay? So, without further ado, we're gonna watch this video. If you do like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will link Tobo's videos in the, I'll link the video of Tobo's in the description below, so you can go like it as well and subscribe like I have just done. So without further ado, let's watch the video. Cause like, dude, it's a good game. I'll interject with my shortcomings and what I think the issues of the game are when Tobo brings up this.
Said with certainty about Arknights Endfield after its beta test. It's got huge potential. It's going to be very popular. And this NPC is really sorry.
Really sorry, really sorry, really sorry, really sorry.
Having played
never
the full
experienced
duration
that.
of the beta, I can confidently say that Arknights Endfield has the potential to define a whole new generation of gacha games.
Ooh, ooh, true as fuck. True, very, very, very true. Very, very true. 1000% true. But I think the key is the potential. They're tripping over their own shoelaces a bit here, but we'll see what he says first, okay?
That is not an exaggeration, but I really must emphasize the word potential. Because
there we go.
right now, I am increasingly worried that potential may never end up being realized. That very same potential could also turn the game into the biggest disappointment I've ever experienced in all my years of playing games.
That is a very bold claim. That is a very bold claim. Oof. I would agree, right? I would agree to an extent, okay? Because like the very same petition could also turn the game into the biggest disappointment. I agree, because with the things they've done right, they've done them fucking amazingly, right? Or at least I shouldn't say that, but the idea behind what they're doing is amazing. With the active AI system where your character is out and you have your 3 neighboring characters and they all attack directly simultaneously with their own AI sets, and that can loop into, that can loop into combo attacks, that can loop into team compositions and make a much different experience the other games give you. But in the same vein, the combat is so dry. It really is, at least in my opinion, with the way the combat system works with the combo attacks. Because there's not really skills per se, and the skill point systems are low. We've gone through this a lot. It's very slow to regen. There are ways to combat it with kits and gear, sure. But it can be definitely improved upon. And that is one thing of many, all right? Let's see what he says and see what he has to cook.
Disappointment I've ever experienced
quiet.
in all my years of playing games. Firstly, though, I really need to get the glazing out of my system, so let's just get that out of the way, shall we?
Okay.
There's so much that I fucking love about Enfield. Literally, from the moment you open the game, it hits you with the
Arknights.
God, it's so good. Harking back to its roots, announcing itself to the world before greeting you with peak music just for the login screen. The satisfaction of seeing all the sprawling factory belts come together, customizing map traversal with zip lines, the activity in the Dijang with your operators working and saying hello.
You're here, Administrator.
True.
The view of Talos 2 from the Nexus, the phenomenal sound design.
Karmic justice.
Dude, those bassy thuds, like the fucking... Oh! It's like in a theater, brother. I mean, the game is cinema, so.
The eerie environment and music of Valley 4.
I think, well, look, we can all agree that the music in this game is different. Like, in such a positive light. You love this game? I already do love it. I played it. I loved it. It needs improvement, sure. But majority of it, it's going to be a good game. Oh, it's so beautiful, man.
Headhunting. Oh my good lord, the headhunting.
The music, yes.
Gets you all excited as if you're preparing for a rocket launch. You click the button, you hear those distant scintillations, and then...
Yes, sir, brother.
By far the best summoning experience in any gacha game I've ever played. Not even close.
I will say, like, by far it has the coolest pulling system with the way you get the character brought in and then you get the showcase stage screen. Like, man, it is drippy. Like, they put their soul into, this, man. You can really see it in every facet, right? The way you walk around on the spaceship and everyone is there. Naturally, the characters that you have pulled, of course, you can interact with them. They have regular walking around, like, dialogues. There's just little things that in this game are so easy to love that you don't see in other games. HDR pull animation better? Okay, that's dented brain. That is insane.
Oh, right, good. Got that out of my system. I have been fortunate enough to play both the alpha and beta of Enfield.
I only play beta.
I was hooked. I was full of optimism and I was wholly convinced that it would be my favorite game of all time. So what changed in the beta? Thankfully, not the base. It's even better than before, and it has a ton of room to grow and become much deeper. Of course, even though the base has a very obvious target audience, with the nature of it being a gacha game, there will inevitably be those who are simply addicted to account progression as gameplay, and will play games they would otherwise have zero interest in, just to feed that addiction.
Of course, right? It kind of goes both ways. This will turn off gacha players, but in the same vein, this feature of a factory will also bring in people who don't play gacha games because they just want that fix. They want that satisfactory, they want that Factorio kind of feel, right? It's such a sick X factor for a game to have because for everyone it's going to turn away, it's going to bring in so many others. And like, I can't wait, man. I think it's done very well. I love the base system. Just remember how they're going to implement it on mobile devices. I have a lot of faith because this game is on a very, very highly augmented Unity engine that is going to be fine on phones. It might just be one of those things where we do need to understand this game is going to also be the future of gacha, right? It's coming in 2025. Your smartphone from COVID is probably not going to run it anymore. That's just going to be the hard truth. I think we're going to be slowly breaching that barrier of hitting that next generation of gacha games on phones, at least, where you're going to need stronger phones because the bare minimum requirements from a few years ago, they're not going to cut it anymore. Because like the curve of, like, we had Genshin, right? We had Genshin, like, that was a big jump from regular gacha games. Then we had Star Rail, which kind of on the same gear. We had Woo, which was a little bit of a jump. Dude, this Arknights, Ananta, they're flying off the screen. So, like, yeah, I think it should be a non-complaint with tablets and with mobile devices, but we will see, right? We'll definitely see how they do fare in performance. I have faith they're going to do it well, but we'll see.
For those players, rather than simplify the gameplay, which would only annoy its fans and still wouldn't be good enough for the
True.
gacha addicts, they instead created these wacky inflatable tube guys, which you then have to murder in cold blood.
Yes, blow them up. Bow! Easy.
I unlocked a bunch of tutorials for it. They are quite possibly the most needlessly hand-holding tutorials I've ever had to do, but I don't mind their existence at all if it...
I will say, I fucking hate the tutorials. These tutorials, I don't know how. I found a way to soft lock myself. I would find ways to be in the tutorial, do everything it asks from me, but it still wouldn't tick off in the corner because I would not make my own. So for example, if it told me to make a refiner, I would not make I would make the refiner, but there'd be a second one to get the bonus objective done. So I would use that second one already on the field when in reality it was wanting me to make a second one so it wouldn't work. So I would repeatedly be in there for 10 minutes at a time and actually can't get it done because I'm dumb and I'm like, I have everything done on the field, but for some reason or another, it just doesn't want to complete until I figured out that it has to actually count your brand new builds, not the ones currently on the field, which in that case, why even make the original ones in the first place? Just a little rant, But it is something I noticed. I was too intelligent to use what was at my disposal already instead of making things, because I'm just such a genius, you know what I mean? I must say for Unity, it looks really good. You ever see much Unity actually make a visual of that, especially Unity, your budget often energy before? Exactly. Well, that's the thing. Like, dude, when you have a budget that these gacha games are going to have, Unity, the engine, I don't think, at least for the graphics, is going to be bound to like any real rules, right? They could bust this out on many things. I think they chose Unity to augment it because they wanted it to be so sustainable on a mobile platform or low-end PCs.
They can keep cooking and make it deeper, more complex, and even more fun and satisfying.
But yes, I do love the base system, TLDR.
For those who are hoping for just another account progression dopamine machine, who lament the mere thought of meaningfully engaging with the base at all, fear not, there is actually an easy solution. Don't play it. Unfortunately though, in spite of everything I've mentioned so far, Enfield has made what I feel are very significant mistakes. Pretty much all of them are fixable. These are
Here comes criticisms.
But in general, beta tests tend to look pretty similar to their full release versions. So let's dive in. The main story is, to put it bluntly, bad. There's no nuance at all. Landbreakers are completely one-dimensional and uninteresting, just generic bad guys who want you dead. Compare them to Reunion from the Arknights main story. They're introduced to us as fighting for the same goal as Rhodes Island, that being to liberate the infected, but with very different methods. There is a clear conflict. I understand the motivations of the antagonists and how they ended up where they are. Landbreakers have none of this. We also know almost nothing about the aims or motivations of the main villain Neferith, who might just be one of the most toothless villains I have ever seen. With the sole exception of one line when you first meet her, she shows up from time to time, says some vague bullshit, and fucks off again. How?
I 100% agree with the idea that the story is bland as fuck, right? I enjoy it. I enjoyed the intro to the game. The first 10 minutes of when you're in the ice moon or whatever it was and everything like that, cinema. But it does fall off very quickly. I will say that. It does drop off like a fucking cliff, okay? You're out? All right, later. My main gripe, personally, with the story is pretty much exactly as I said, to be honest with you. It just doesn't get you to that... It doesn't get you from point A to point B. It has a lot of insinuation, or it has a lot of maybe you have to go do law hunting, which people always excuse fucking storytelling for some weird-ass brain-dead fucking reason I'll never understand. To really get a grasp on who this fucking character is, who the antagonists are, and that kind of thing. If it doesn't tell you it explicitly and give you direct rhyme and reason as to why they are doing things, and it is locked behind having to do actual open world exploration to get this info, it is telling a bad story. It doesn't make story bad, it makes it bland to anyone who actually just wants to play the game for the game, and not be a lore gooner and find every nook and cranny of the story to piece together the inherent puzzle of what was already given to you in the base quest line, okay? It's something that could definitely be improved on, because other than knowing we have partial amnesia, and there is a loose tie to Rhodes Island, and certain characters are cloned, we have some memory, characters are dead. The actual antagonists, we don't give a fuck about, nor do we know what they do. It's insane, right? Big balls for saying this, Toto. Big nuts.
How on earth can this be written by Hypergriff, the same people who gave us Patriot and Tallulah? They can very reasonably fix all of these issues before the game's release, but the alpha story wasn't good either, so I'm not convinced they will.
I 100% agree. I am wondering though, right? My question is, the reason, because, this is the same team Hypergriff, Griffline, same group, same core company that made Arknights, and everyone loves the Arknights story. I would like, again, this might be just pure conjecture, random theory crafting bullshit, but I do believe it's their first crack at a real true 3D game, at least of this insane scale. Maybe when making the map and making the ideas behind it and actually building the game, putting it into practice is way harder than a visual novel sense. Again, I don't know. I would still imagine the story writers are still the story writers, but I find it hard to believe that having such a crazy drop-off of overall quality from the opening act. But that being said, I believe the opening act of base Arknights is still pretty bad too. I don't know. I don't know. I think they're telling two different stories here, whereas like base Arknights kind of gave you a lot more info versus this, which is already just running with a story that we just have to catch up on and figure out how it's going down. I think it might more or less be that. The lack of explanation, the lack of introduction to the enemy, like to the enemy side, the antagonists. It's the biggest issue so far in the story. That and the building fucking area of the story where you meet the owl guy, I want to blow my shit off smooth style. It's insane.
I have no issue with the notion of a simple story well told, but that does not describe Enfield's story at all. And it's not just the writers who are at fault. At one point, Chen refers to Neferith as Nephi, which I found extremely weird. Why is she giving the main villain a friendly nickname?
To play devil's advocate here, I believe localization teams get too much free reign. I don't know. Again, I don't know the logistics. I'm just saying. Look, I'm just simply putting out there. Maybe localization team is being just a little bit quirky with it, right? I don't think this is inherently Griffline's fault, unless it is directly in Griffline that they have a English translator. Who knows?
Turns out this is because in every single language except English, Chen says essentially the equivalent of Nefer something or Nefer whatever.
Oh my god, it's exactly as I said. It's almost as if that thing I said about localization people are kind of taking the piss in the modern age, whether it be anime, manga, video games from the East. They just seem to be translating and being fucking so dumb and like quirky with it that it kind of takes away the notion of what people are trying to say. This is more of like a direct hate towards, at least from my POV. This is me just kind of saying to localization teams, stop. Just do the legit translation. We don't need you to kind of put your quirky little twist on shit. It's fucking annoying. Especially when it's official in something as big as like a Shonen Jump, or a simulcast fucking anime with subtitles, or be it the biggest, one of the most anticipated games of 2025, Arknights Endfield. Just fucking do the one-to-ones. Holy shit, man. It's insane. Having localization and freedom is red flag. Exactly, it shouldn't. Like, I'm not even kidding, and it's going to sound really, really, really insane. I'm not saying they should be sacked. I'm not saying they should lose their jobs. But what I am saying is there needs to be a legit discussion internally. Do not fuck around with it. Get as literal as you can. Because it takes away a lot of the experience. You know what I mean? It's very, very silly. At least it's not political. That's got nothing to do with this. Oh, man. Well, we're in for a long visual novel type story approach, so I get even Jihad as a visual novel type approach. Yeah, exactly. There's a few ways you can look at it with why the story's dropped off, but TLDR from what that giant rant was, but localizers, just fucking localize. Don't try and be like, oh, I'm going to see how many little funnies I can get through without people noticing. Just fucking do it normally. No one cares. No one cares about your little gripes. They're really annoying.
Because the name went over her head. It's a subtle way of adding to her characterization. Instead, the English translators collectively hotboxed their entire office and decided Chen is actually giving her the kind of cute nickname you'd normally give to close friends. I am astounded at how incompetent this is, but then again, these are the same translators who translated cold to cryo, for no reason in particular, I'm sure. Most of the dialogue is also exasperating.
You should feel lucky, because I am the only one who can take care of technical problems like this. Say no more. Stop moving already, and do something about that ether side rupture before it gets any worse.
Guys, writers, please! Is it too much to ask not to be treated like an idiot? Who could your target audience possibly be for this dialogue such that you feel the need to explicitly state the obvious multiple times and make sure...
Oh my god, look right above my face.
Everything is repeated very slowly for clarity. Oh, motherfucker! Consistent with the emerging trend of disappointing writing, frustratingly are the characters. Not because their writing is bad per se, but because there's just so much wasted potential. For example, Ember is a Sanctor and Shaihi is a Sarkaz. We know from the Arknight story that the Sanctor and the Sarkaz are seemingly always in conflict with each other due to what the Sarkaz see as the Sanctor's betrayal. An image of a Sarkaz and a Sanctor holding hands was very prominent in Arknights' 4th concept trailer as a holy shit moment because its meaning was so significant. Meanwhile, the only mention of something even slightly resembling a connection to this lore is one line in Ember's file saying, "The children born and raised in Talos 2 would never learn that angels and sanctum used to carry beautiful meanings in times past." If I'm interpreting this correctly, this is the writer's way of saying that the entire history of Terra, all the extraordinary, catastrophic, mountain-moving events that directly led to Terran races ending up on Talos 2, not important. None of it matters anymore. I am so disappointed in the writers. What a monumental waste of such an incredible wealth of lore at your disposal. All that being said, though, I must admit, I do love the fact the resident Australian, Aviwena, says verbatim, "Burden beast piss? How does it taste like? Crikey fucking bloody oath, Sheila, you piss-drinking cunt." Despite...
I want to die. I want to... My Australian culture has been insulted, but it is also factually true. We do love drinking piss. This is fact. Piss means beer. Amen, brother.
nearly all the writing being a massive letdown, I want to make it explicitly clear the voice actors, thankfully, are actually good at their job and have done marvelous work with the material they've been given.
I was waiting for him to dunk on it. I kind of like the voice acting too. I was like, okay, this is where he's going to be wrong. No, like, I think there are some shortcomings, sure. I think Perlica is one of the ones I'm still on the fence on, thinking if they're actually good or not. But everyone else, like, if they don't stick out of my mind as being bad, they've done a great job. I love Angelina, by the way. Angelina goes crazy style. Aviwena, I don't know. Aviwena feels like a fake Australian accent, but she's still an okay voice actor in those terms. I think, yeah, Perlica might be the only one on Frogwatch right now.
I'm a huge fan of Aviwena, Dapan, and...
Tobo's also Australian. Yeah, I can. This is what an Australian sounds like. I know this, yeah.
Regional accents?
Oh, of course. You're the boss. You point the way.
I'm convinced Aviwena's an inside agent, though.
Leave it to me.
And on top of that, the animations are way more expressive, the models are outstanding, and their idle chatter adds a ton of...
Idealism is always detached from reality, and it's the first step towards disappointment.
Thank you, Wolfguard. Also, just one more thing. I am no prude. I am a straight man who plays gacha games. I'm not gonna pretend not to like fan service. But guys, holy fuck, relax. Subtlety is dead. Humanity is cooked. Have mercy on my soul. Guide me from the wayward woman, Lord Jesus. Now, as I said before, everything I have mentioned so far is fixable. Bad writers can be replaced and characters can be given good writing later on, which is why all of this is negligible compared to the #1 issue I have with Arknights Endfield in its beta state.
I'm gonna call it is the fucking combat.
Because it is not fixable once it is released. In order to get there, we first need to talk about combat.
Oof!
Combat in Enfield, for the most part, revolves around skills and skill points.
Yeah, and combos.
To trigger a battle skill, which in theory triggers a combo skill, which triggers even more of them, and so on. Combo skills are essentially just QTEs with extra steps that deal damage. You press E when the prompt shows up, and it gets the neurons going. Basic attack strings essentially serve as the cost of getting a final strike, which is the last hit in the sequence. Final strikes restore SP, so for the most part, you really want to be getting the full sequence of basic attacks to that end. That logic generally applies to the combat as a whole. Given the importance of skills, you want to be maximizing SP restoration, hence the prevalence of Arklight in nearly every team composition. Her individual...
Dude, it's like, maybe it's a beta thing. Arklight feels like the only way to keep combat, like, consistently fast. It feels like without her in the team, having the ability to pop off her own combat refresh combo attack off herself is the only way to mitigate getting through combo follow-ups.
Damage may not be anything noteworthy, but her ability to generate SP is excellent, and more SP means more damage. I'm honestly kind of surprised she isn't a 6-star. Now, the beta also adds the ability to dodge. Due to the nature of final...
Oh god. Oh god. Am I finally gonna receive retribution? People calling me just a shitter, complaining about the dodging system in this game, are actually gonna be like, oh, maybe he was right? Hold on, listen, cooking.
Final strikes being your primary way of restoring SP, you need to commit to the full sequence of basic attacks to get it.
And you cannot dodge outside
every time
of combats.
Attacks you of either dodging or taking the hit. And the dodge is often not the best move. But it still gives me cause for concern. Future 6-stars are inevitably going to be designed to take advantage of more and more gameplay mechanics. Right now, the dodge only exists as a means of survival rather than facilitating damage. But if a dodge exists in any capacity, there is a very real danger of them leaning much further into it by, say, having a 6-star with a combo skill triggered by a dodge, and then more units with kits centered around dodging who synergize with that 6-star, and a new 6-star whose basic attacks don't get interrupted by the dodge, and before long you'll end up with a player base wanting more and more action, understandably seeking to flex their ADHD action gamer reflexes as their expression of skill. But with Enfield's base building being the way it is, and with the fact that they didn't dumb down the actual substance of the base building at all since the alpha, the vision the Enfield team had was clearly aimed at the kind of player who likes to obsess over details, who may not necessarily want something based on reflexes, but instead something more strategic, controlled and precise. The base obviously appeals to this kind of player, while the combat has ended up with a sort of identity crisis. Unsure of what it really wants to look like, trying to be a bit at everything while never actually excelling at any of them. Most of the strategy comes from the team comps rather than the execution. The actual process of triggering combos and doing damage and so on, while satisfying for a while, is very easy.
Also, not to mention, I don't think he's going to cover it. I think he would have kind of said it there. The issue I have with the combo dodging attack system is once you rip your original dodges, if you don't have an Arknight, you have this awkward downtime area of about 5 to 8 seconds, which I get if you want to be an RTS game. That's not really that long at all. I do understand that. But it still feels kind of like, what do you do in this meantime other than just awkwardly hobble around and just like do a left click combo? Because final hits, which is another way you generate SP, takes so long to do. And if you ever hit dodge, you reset your final hit count, waiting for the SP to gradually, naturally build up. Yeah, dude, the combat in concept bangs, goes so hard. And I will agree, it is fun, relatively. But if they want to be the next game to really break the mold of gacha meta, or like what every game really builds off of, they need to really hunker down and like go all in on one or the other. You got to go all in on hack and slash and go Dicko mode on that with the current setup. Or you need to add maybe a second skill to each character, change the combo system and reactions with elements. And that way it becomes more strategy instead of just spam left click dodge, GG go next, right? There's a character that has fast final hit combo. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're saying one character. What I'm trying to tell you is that's the exact fucking problem. If you have to, as I said, Arknight, you have to use Arknight in every team. If you wanted to have different characters that have, oh, this character is really good at quick final attacks, you only use that character. You see how we're all going to start using the exact same fucking team comp, and there's going to be no variation to an RTS-based game with reaction elements and strategical choices with the combo skills. Like, that's what I'm trying to say, right? You want that variety. It shouldn't have to be an issue that you need to all be running the same 4 people to even have a chance at it feeling the way it should. That's an issue with the game. That's not an issue with the it's an issue with the game mechanics. It's not an issue of the actual roster.
The battle skill or 2, do your basic attack string, face tank smaller hits, use combo skills on cooldown, and repeat. I quickly exhausted every single possibility for improvement, and even self-limiting clears like duos and solos are not at all challenging.
Yep.
I died more often to platforming than to enemies. This is mostly due to the current cast of enemies lacking any real variety or complexity.
I will give Devil's Advocate though, because it is a beta that we probably have only seen, let's say, 60% of enemies. That being said, if that is the early part of the game, it's probably going to be dropped by a lot of people if they don't want to stick it out, right? The problem with the dodge system is you look at ZZZ and how they go on damage expression. Yeah, well, I think a great example is ZZZ. Not trying to compare combat for combat here, like which one is more fun. That's the most arbitrary statement ever. But it's why I had hope for Enfield taking the approach to Xenoblade, where the dodge is only meant to be evade bug problem, rather than damage expression. Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those. It's one of those weird middle grounds. What's up, Val, by the way? It's one of those weird middle grounds where ZZZ, people call it bland, people call it simple, but it knows what it is. That's what makes ZZZ fun. When you log on to ZZZ, you know exactly how the game's going to play. You know every character's built for this, so you can make so many different team comps and really fuck around with it. When it comes to Arknights, though, they have a feeling of the game that is somewhat kind of similar with the swap-in skills and that kind of thing, but then it wants to kind of take away from that and also be partially RTS, which I'm gonna just say, this game is not fucking RTS. I don't know why the fuck people keep breathing down my neck telling me that when I say it is not, because it isn't. Even if that's what they want it to be, it's fucking not. It's like if I lift this up and I tell you it's black, and you go, no, guys, it's fucking green. I'm like, no, it's not green. It may want to be green. It's fucking black. It's the exact same situation. It's not an RTS, even if they want it to be, and we need to tell them it is bad. It fails as a construct on a real-time strategy kind of platform.
Sure, it will improve with time, but the state of the game at launch has real implications for the future of the game.
Okay, well, maybe that...
Hypergriff has been through these motions.
Maybe I used the wrong shade of color. Okay, what? Yeah, I was gonna say purple? It's fine. You know what? Cancelled. GG, guys. Oof.
Before. Today, more than 5 years after its launch, Arknights is known for its meaningfully challenging endgame modes to the point of Chinese universities hosting nationwide Arknights.
Wait, what? Wait, you guys didn't tell me about this. All you real Arknights fans, you guys don't tell me this was a thing? This sounds fucking awesome.
Universities hosting nationwide Arknights tournaments with thousands of dollars in prize money.
Isn't RTS like Age of Empires? Like RTS does have a spectrum for sure. But like it just fails in any concept of the spectrum. Especially when you go look at base Arknights. This is inherently a balloons tower defense game without the balloons. Whatever way you want to string it, it is a game where you have a unit that sits on a spot and kills enemies in another spot. This unit cannot move from the spot and then needs to defend its base. And it excels at it. It is fucking amazing at it. It's really weird seeing Enfield come from a team like this and having such a crazy identity crisis.
These years because Arknights has such a rich endgame and high skill ceiling, but for a long time it didn't. When it first launched, the most interesting gameplay it had to offer was Chapter 4. It took them years to make integrated strategies a permanent game mode. But the difference is, Arknights didn't offer anything else in terms of gameplay. There was nothing else to play the game for.
Exactly.
With Enfield, Hypergriff seems to have regressed into doing the same thing by making it frustratingly shallow in its launch state. But doing so this time is a critical mistake. Those who are looking for strategic depth will not find it. It is pathetically easy, and it will remain that way for at least the first 6 months or so. Which means
But what I will say as well, the difference between base Arknights and this Arknights, this is probably one of the things I disagree with, is base Arknights, it's a hub-based gacha game, whereas this is an open world, huge budget, much more vast game that's trying to pertain to more people, right? You go into base Arknights, especially on release, and you knew exactly what to do. You knew to go into a stage, and you knew to play balloons tower defense. You start losing, you go to the bags, you pull more characters, you keep playing balloons tower defense. This is open world with base building, with real world, real-time strategy combat as well. But the only thing that really feels like a true identity that is always there that you know you're going to go into is the base building. Because the combat, it doesn't feel like combat. It feels like just a quick repeated puzzle you get to do at will until you've maxed out your sanity for the day. They fail much more here than they did base Arknights. Base Arknights on release, sure, it might have been bland, but we knew what the fuck it was and the charm of it. It was all built around that. This, however, way, way different. Feedback, they got everything but base building, which is quite, yeah. I believe they are going to adjust stuff, but the only thing that I am concerned about is that if they do go and rework combat, this game doesn't come up to 2026. I'm happy for this game to not come out for the longest time possible. I really, really am. If it is released in a great state. But I think too many people are blinded by the I want a new gacha game fucking, light, and they're just going to pretend it's fine. Game comes out, they complain it's shit, and they don't fucking play it. And they don't fix the game until 2027 because they have a locked-in roadmap and they have all these things they plan to do. We need to talk about this stuff now. We just have to.
Once those players have completed their bases, which really doesn't take that much time, they may not stick around for that long. But those who are looking for action will get plenty of it from daily and weekly gameplay, regardless of the difficulty. The ability to dodge not only gives those action players their daily dose.
This game is open world, all right? I don't care what anyone says. The whole it's not open world, dude, we are fucking splitting hairs, bro. Like, insanely thin. This is an open world game. Technically, it's not. GG. Go next.
But also significantly diminishes the need for healing. If their overworld healing needs can be met with items you can craft directly from the backpack, and a 4-star like Snowshine can provide literally all my healing needs with room to spare anyway, what reason does the action-seeking player have to engage with the base at all? The outposts are optional. All they need at that point is some components to make gear. This, combined with the lack of strategic depth in its launch state, creates a serious risk of cultivating a majority of players who are exclusively invested in the action gameplay. Now, this will be a controversial take, but I would not be making this video were I not willing to defend it. I think the best decision Enfield could possibly make after the beta is to remove the dodge entirely.
I'ma let him cook. I'ma listen. I don't know where you're going with this. But... Huh?
Hypergriff's development decisions will be driven by what players want, and if the vast majority of players aren't engaging with the base, the game's evolution will reflect that. This is my #1 issue with the game. They are creating a precarious combination of action gameplay in the combat alongside the slower gameplay of the base. We already have an example of such a precarious combination in a gacha game failing to hold in Zenless Zone Zero's TV mode. It is an action game, it was advertised as an action game. Lo and behold, the action gamers didn't like the TV mode, and Hoyoverse decided to all but kill the TV mode entirely.
W.
The difference, though, is that Zenless Zone Zero was built from the ground up around its dodge and parry mechanics. It is fundamentally an action game. That is where its strengths lie, and that decision
I see where he's going with this.
Further into those strengths. Enfield, on the other hand, has been built from the ground up around the base, yet it is taking clear steps towards action gameplay. Obviously, they aren't going to kill off the base entirely, you might as well announce end of service at that point, but I am convinced Enfield is sleepwalking into doing something not all that far removed. If the game cultivates a player base who are seeking action, then as more and more regions are introduced, each one asking the player to build a new base from scratch, those action-seeking players will complain, and being the majority of the player base, there is a serious danger of Hypergriff pivoting to action gameplay for that reason. And we have already seen that Hypergriff is perfectly willing to let you sidestep most of the strategy in their strategy game, so long as you pay up. But for the same reason Hoyoverse's attempts at strategy have been absolute dogshit, Hypergriff would not even hold a candle to developers with mature and polished action gameplay systems. Removing the dodge and doubling down on strategic gameplay solves this problem and gives them the space to build on Enfield's strengths and create something truly phenomenal. It is by far the best decision they can make for the longevity of the game. Instead, they are trying to steer it in two different directions simultaneously. One towards that vision they so clearly had a year ago, and one towards appealing to a wider, more general audience.
So I actually kind of like and respect that he's kind of thrown it out there, okay? And here's the thing, even if you disagree with someone in a fucking gacha game, doesn't mean you have to fucking constantly bring it up and say how much you hate this person and they're just incorrect and they are factually wrong. It's fucking subjective. Get over it. I like that idea. But what I will say is I honestly, if I want to be that guy, I think Enfield fucked up the moment they actually removed the slow-mo from the alpha test. And that sounds crazy because a lot of people hated the alpha test. But what they should have done instead was seriously fucking refine it. Like, because they played into the hands of the people wanting more raw action, but they still wanted to be a strategy-based game, which that just seemed like the biggest misdirection ever, right? I know it got received really, really poorly with how bad that the system for slow-mo to use your abilities went, but to take it away and then just directly add in a dodge system and make it more quick time combo related for the overall combat, for 90% of the combat, is an even worse decision because it's pushing into the wrong fan base.
However, since Genshin released, we have to preface that we don't hate other people if we have different opinions.
I mean, with or without Genshin, it's going to happen, man. People are sensitive on the internet. But yeah, look, I like the idea. I like the idea of reverting back to an extent, but look, first things first, they should never have fucking removed the slow-mo. The slow-mo should have been tweaked heavily. Maybe not even make it slow-mo, but it is a real world. You augment when a thing is used and the direction it's used in, like you get to use the FOV and stuff. That way you get a much more strategy raw reaction than just dodge, dash in, heavy attack, combo attack, ultimate, rinse and repeat, skill point use, rinse and repeat, blah, blah, blah. They shot themselves in the foot there. I like the idea he's going. I don't think I believe it's the best way to fix it, but I don't really have a better option directly. So I can't give a comparison.
One towards that vision they so clearly had a year ago, and one
more
towards
summon, more
appealing
more
to a
summon max
wider,
skills, more way to
more
control.
general audience.
Yep.
If we're being honest with ourselves, though, we all know what general audience really means. Let's not pretend otherwise. It means the Hoyoverse audience.
Yes, sir!
Obviously, there's nothing wrong with playing Hoyoverse games. This does not mean every single Hoyoverse fan ever. The problem is with those who do not see each game as having a unique identity appealing to different kinds of players, but rather they see 3D anime RPG gacha game as a genre in itself. And yes, that does include you, Wuthering Waves fans. Hoyoverse and Kuro games both have their roots in action gameplay,
True.
while Hypergriff's roots are in strategy. And yet, there are still those who make the argument that trying to be like Genshin or like Wuthering Waves or whatever is a good thing because they're the most popular gacha, and for some reason, popularity is the only thing that matters to these people. I'm going to make
Those, before he continues, I just want to say, the people who say it should be more like Wuba and Hoyoverse as a gacha game, not just Arknights, but in general, they're the only big 3D gachas. Snowbreak fell on its fucking face with the way that game went because it was just terrible. Tower of Fantasy was the worst attempt at a pseudo MMO for anime fans. It's because there's no other contenders. There isn't other games that have been brought to the limelight that are out yet until Ananta, until Enfield, until Premilia to prove this wrong. So for all they know, they're going to go into a games with predisposition that it must be exactly like Wuwa or a Hoyoverse game, or it's fucking boards, you know, it's GG, or it's cheeks. It's, yeah, you can't win. If they listen to those people, they're just called copycats. If they don't listen, then they're just called self-destructive and the game's shit. So, you know, we'll let them cook.
what may seem like a strange analogy at
All
first,
I'm
but
saying,
just trust me.
Nikki.
Yeah, but Nikki's not a 3D. I'm talking specifically 3D gacha.
This. When Gangnam Style released in 2012, it was a global phenomenon.
Mhm.
It became the first video to reach 1 billion views on YouTube, and just like that, the Korean pop industry was catapulted into the mainstream. More than a decade after that phenomenon, do we now have a thriving industry consisting solely of songs that are like Gangnam Style? Sounds a bit silly, doesn't it? Saya did not stumble upon some magic formula for success which can be repeated forever with the right balance.
That's a
of
different with 3D and
ingredients,
Nikki,
Sai has
true.
explicitly said this himself.
You know, I cannot call this success because this is called phenomena, and which means I don't do anything. People do it, right? So this was by people, not by me.
K-pop is the leviathan of an industry at its
Respect.
day,
Respect,
not because
Sai.
everybody copied Gangnam Style, but because people took advantage of the opportunity.
Just a game, what?
Gangnam
Infinity,
Style
Nikki?
opened up.
Oh, I'm so dumb, sorry.
Fast forward to 2020 and Genshin Impact becomes a global phenomenon, catapulting gacha games into the mainstream. MiHoYo put some forward-thinking people at the wheel, quickly built a brand identity, renaming themselves Hoyoverse, and now, 5 years later, Hoyoverse has found unfathomable sustained success. But again, this is not because they found some magic formula, but because they took advantage of the opportunities brought about by the phenomenon that was and is Genshin Impact.
True.
This is what people so often miss when they insist that every new gacha game needs to be like some other gacha game. Of course, this is no concern for enlightened and experienced 3D anime RPG gacha game enthusiasts like ourselves. I'm sure our judicious and learned beta testers have provided invaluable feedback to the developers.
Of course.
Shall we peruse a few of them? Dash feels underwhelming. It should be more forgiving and have more iframes. It's not to my liking because of my action RPG experiences.
All right, I just want to quickly say that is not what I was saying earlier when I said I was having dodge issues, okay? My issue with the dodge was the red light ping you get from enemies doesn't fucking line up in terms of a timing window. It is different on every single fucking enemy. I like it small. That sounds crazy. I'm just saying, I like how small the window is for the dodge. I wasn't this fucking bozo, okay? I'm talking about the red light district side of the fucking dodging system because it sucks and it never worked. Go again.
You don't say! Game needs a proper dodge, and anyone who says otherwise is coping. A quick look around the gacha space.
Okay, this guy's a
makes it
shitter.
abundantly clear. Not being able to dodge cancel makes the overall combat loop feel unsatisfying
Does it just
because
keep
you're
going?
forced to take hits that could have been avoided. Yeah, dodging definitely needs rework, like larger iframes for casuals, and consecutive dodges, and dodges not breaking your basic attack combo, and more
man.
dodging distance, and making dodges more rewarding, and make SP boss 4 instead of 3. It would make combat faster. Please make normal attacks more powerful, and also make each hit give SP, and also stagger, and also Also, please give SP whenever I dodge. Also, please make dodges use less stamina. Also, so far so good, but it feels like some essential features are missing, like iframe rolls and parrying and deflecting. Hey, remember what I said about players wanting more and more action if a dodge exists? Make SP boss 4 instead of 3 and make it recharge faster. Right now, there's no incentive to swap to another character during combat. It cancels the animation and doesn't change the position. I hope they make it more like Wuthering Waves. Oh, here we go, boys. Buckle up. Combat's already way better than with the technical test. Being too different will scare new players away. They changed it from the technical test for a reason. But this is my view as someone who's played lots of recent gacha games like Genshin Impact, Zenless Zone Zero, and Wuthering Waves, but never the original Arknights. By the way, there is Girls Frontline 2 for a more top-down strategic approach, which is exactly why I'm not playing it.
You dumb fuck.
Here
Oh
are some
my
exploration
god.
options in the competitors I've played. Genshin Impact. The game should tell me which weapon to put on my character, like in Zenless Zone Zero. Also, the game should tell me which gear to put on my character, like in Zenless Zone Zero. Overworld exploration feels kind of slow. A good example of how to make it better would be Wuthering Waves. Right now, this feels like a certain game where the combat is you running around and combining different skills to get the reaction. Damn, that's crazy. I wonder why. Jump feels too short and floaty. It would be great to increase the height or allow a double jump. It would have to redo all the geometry. What do you mean? This is especially important because of improvements to exploration the competition has been making. Oh, will you please fuck off? It would be great if they considered adding platforming abilities like a double jump and wall climbing and
The game should play itself true.
It's one of the fun aspects of open world games. It's not an open world game, for crying out loud. All the
Disagree.
open world gacha games let you carry over the pity, so this system will not bode well for most of the mainstream gacha community. Well, they can bloody well fuck off then. People need to learn how to skip banners. This is stupid advice. Just look at this example from Get. You just wanted to be more like Hoyoverse, and they're the most popular gacha, period. Not carrying over the guarantee in a game competing with Get. I only build up pity if there is a character I really want dupes for. The concept of dupes is already questionable. Looking at Genshin Impact. I know very few people that play Arknights, but dozens that play Hoyo and Kuro games. This is a lie. You know people who play one Kuro game.
Popular equals good games.
Specifically, don't fucking lie to me! It's about what your competition does in business.
Oh,
my
man.
God, you people are insufferable. I keep pulling after I get the character to build pity, but that's now a mistake in this game. You have a gambling addiction! Building pity is not a thing! In my ideal gacha system, there is no 50-50 system at all. Just
You actually hit him. Oh, when I say building pity isn't real. Oh, I love this guy, Toto. Toto, thank you.
the banner with X pulls to get it guaranteed, and a higher chance to get it at X pulls. This is literally the Enfield system, you idiot! Mark my words, if this system goes live with no changes, the player base from competitors of this game will absolutely not play long term. Bear in mind, by the way, this is just from the Discord server. There will be far more of this in the private feedback surveys. I want to highlight one more post, however, in which two testers state similar concerns to mine and are met with a rather depressing response.
Yeah, this has been a thing.
Currently, there are a lot of action elements, but the battles don't feel exciting. I think the battle system in the technical test might be more enjoyable. When it comes to action, other companies' games are more refined, and the current system just feels like an inferior version of them, which is just annoying. The second agrees. There are some opinions that it's plain compared to other games, but Enfield is differentiated from others and is interesting in its own way, so I don't want it to be swayed by those opinions and make it feel too action-oriented. If the dodge window is too lenient, it'll just become a dodging action game. While the third tester, eloquently summing up the vast majority of the feedback, says, I agree with increasing the action element. The reason is simple, it will attract a wider range of players.
And that is one of the things, right? That is something that we've spoken about a lot. And it really does come down to two parties. Do you want the game to be globally successful and a massive hit that makes a shitload of money, but it is played very safe and it is a game everyone kind of likes, but no one really loves? Or do you want to really continue with that niche of base Arknights, which is something I always say, it's not fucking base Arknights, right? One of the big things that I always said was like, this isn't base Arknights, no, compare the two. This game is going to be on a grander scale. Do they stick to that niche community or not? I don't know. I always treated a lot of the criticism and kind of critiques of the game when I played with the lens of making it a popular, bigger game. But I feel like that is always going to be part of what you want, but ultimately, I think there is a middle ground that they do want to hit, where they want to keep the game true to the people who do love the game, miss out on a lot of potential players, but they still make a game they're very proud of and is really different and can push gacha as a whole forward, right? Because this is going to be a wildly successful game, but how maintaining player bases are going to be on it is the big question. Because if they keep this identity crisis, it's not going to be good for either party. And for bridge gap, yeah, dude, and it's hard, man. Choose between being wide or being tall. Well, you can be a little bit of both, right? You can be a little bit chunky and like average sized, right? I hope it does very, very well, man. I am nervous for sure. But damn.
This essentially is the mindset of people who keep asking for the game to be something it's not. They have no concept of carving out a niche in the market, or games having unique identities, or the developers having their own vision. It's all just monthly revenue PvP. It is.
There's a reason I stopped covering this Marvel event through. This shit is just fucking painful, man. First of all, the numbers aren't even fucking accurate. Second of all, it just pushes tribalism so much further. And it's almost as like, oh, people, all the Genshin fans, like, oh, we won this month. Do you guys make money? You guys are fucking Hoyo, like, you guys work there? You guys got shares? Like, what the fuck? Like, just, oh, this shouldn't be a thing. This should be used for nothing more than a reflective mirror to realize what game had a great month, and then we look at that game and review the month as, why was it good? Why was Genshin 100 mil this month? Oh, because they released this, that, and the other, or this highly anticipated banner came out, or that. It shouldn't be used for bragging rights, because holy fuck, we don't see a cent of this. If anything, we actually lose this money, because this is our money accumulatively, right, guys?
Boring, it is exhausting, and I lament the apparent reality that Hypergriff seems to be listening to them.
Yeah, and again, this is kind of being released after these dev notes. Like, it kind of paints a bit of a grim picture if you're more of a Arknights, I would argue, like RTS purist. But man, it's, again, there's still so much time to rework the game. There is. Again, one video from Tobo that is getting great reception, to be fair. On Twitter, he's getting cooked, but Twitter is, anyone gets cooked for a living over there. I don't think this video is going to really reach any ears over there. All we can do as a community is, for the next beta test, remember these notes if you never consider them and you do take them on board. That is ultimately the best we can do.
As it stands, the base is the one and only thing meaningfully differentiating Enfield from other gacha games.
Yep.
Thankfully, the majority of people anticipating the game's release do seem to understand how important the base is for that reason. But while it does have tons of room to grow and become even better, I have become convinced it will not. The most optimistic outcome I can believe in is that new regions will have a new gimmick, like Jinlong's fluids and pipes. You build a new base with it over the course of maybe a few days at most. The vast majority of players will be satisfied, and that's where it will end.
Yeah.
Gacha games are not conventional games. Fundamentally, the characters are the product, and the game is simply a vessel through which the product is marketed. But reducing all gacha games to this fundamental is boring. They're fun! There's so much potential in the live service model for outstanding single-player games to see years of consistent updates and improvements. To foster thriving communities that conventional games often don't have the lifespan for. Instead, a subset of the communities that already exist are preventing that potential from being realized by consistently pushing new endeavors with unique visions into the same box until they all become homogenized imitations of the same thing. Hypergriff needs to decide if they are content with being that imitation. Because a game for everyone is a game for no one.
I get it. I do get it. And as I said, like, we can only take note of the, if you're in the camp of this mindset, take the stuff in the next beta. We are getting another beta. We're probably getting another fucking 2, okay? But man, it is tough, because if the game becomes generic and safe, then it's no more fun than a Star Rail or an Impact or anything like that. And it's like, you want the game and the company to take the risk, right? You want them to take the risk and see if the game is really good with this RTS venture, but they buckled. They already showed they buckled. The first tech test, taking away all the slow-mo mechanics and heavily augmenting and implementing a dodge system, kind of showed they want a bigger community more than they want a niche, right? And obviously the main answer to that is pretty well damn obvious. It's fucking money. I would love for it to be more niche, but these games are for businesses. They make money. That is the whole point. That is the kit and caboodle of a live service game, is to make money every month, have a monthly revenue, have a monthly influx, to keep pushing our back into the game or repay investors. Again, we shouldn't care about that side of things, but fucking hell, with revenue reports, people for some reason do. So yeah, I beg and I hope they push back on this and go more towards the RTS route, because it would be fun if they did go full balls in, balls to the wall on it, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like they're going to go more towards the woo-wah pseudo route, and it's fine. It's fine, but that's the thing. We want it to be great. We don't want it to be average. If it joins the likes of all the other games, like the Hoyo cookie cutters, and is like just below that step of combat from a woo-wah, what is the game then? What, a marginally better Genshin with a shitload of amazing diffs when it comes to graphics? I don't know if that cuts it. But if it makes the money, who the fuck else will I say, right?
There was a moment while playing through the main story, which I think will stick with me for many years. I was thinking about some moments from the alpha, like Fial's desperate attempts to jump onto this ledge because I was standing on it and admiring certain details on the blighted gigaspawns. My boy was caked up.
Oh, shit.
I happened to be in the Origin Lodespring region at the time, and I noticed why the music for this place in particular felt so eerie. Remember the...
If the game was for everyone, a game for no one, yeah, again, I should have said, it's a quote. It's like, yeah, sure. I don't believe it's kind of what he's going for there. I think he's trying to say if you make it super safe, it falls down and is in the same ranks as everything else. Because it's still gonna have fans. I'm still gonna like it no matter what avenue they go down, just because of the graphic fidelity of the game looks fucking insanely amazing, and I have a predisposition of enjoyment and love for the game from the base game, right? I think it might be a bit more over-exaggeratory for the game for everyone, game for no one vibe, but you know, neither here nor there. They need to pick a lane because they still haven't.
new theme I was glazing earlier?
Oh, banger.
Now compare that motif to the music from this part of the map.
Oh, it's like slow down. Whoa, whoa.
It invokes a feeling of loss, a feeling of knowing something will never be the same again. And suddenly, I had to stop what I was doing because I was hit with an overwhelming feeling of nostalgia for the alpha.
Fair?
Are you having fun, Tobo?
It's really satisfying, actually. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
There's so much potential in what this combat can be.
And again, like, this right here is the stuff they should have refined instead of just outright removed it. This slow-mo into a deeper kind of strategy approach should have been what they lent into. Regardless of the reception, they should have just taken that, oh, people aren't liking it, and then going, why aren't they liking it? Oh, is it because of the slow-mo? Is it because it takes away from the fight? Make it in real time. Make it so the game doesn't slow. Make it more reactive. There are so many ways they could have gone about it if they wanted to stick to strategy, if they wanted to keep it niche. But I think the answer is they don't, right? And this video is essentially someone, Tobo, I shouldn't say someone, it kind of, you know, screaming from the rafters being like, keep what you had. Don't bend the knee and fall into the mediocrity of gacha. Don't play the safe way. Make it distinct, because it will pay off absolute dividends. But I don't think they care about that. And even if they do, the people who have the real power are the shareholders. If there are, we don't know the semantics of the company. We shouldn't give a fuck about that anyway, but we have to because it's a gacha game for some weird fucking reason. I don't think they want to make a niche game. I don't. Some people wanted something else. Well, I think as well, the people who wanted something else are the people who play honkai and fucking Genshin. The people who played the fucking beta, they all come with the mindset of these previous games in mind, and they directly compare it to that, because this game is kind of marketed like that. Let's keep it a buck. It is, for all intents and purposes. If you have not played a gacha game before, or if you've only played Genshin and Honkai and Woo-Wah, when you look at this game from an advertising standpoint, from watching other streamers play it during betas, it looks the fucking same. It doesn't give that stretch. There's no stretch that kind of, snaps between the two where you see a visual difference between a strategy that this thing is, strategy used really, really, really loosely, and the hack and slash combat from the other games. There just isn't that swap there. There never has been. The only real X factor there was when you would see a little bit of slow-mo from this. Like, you would see this and you'd be like, oh, this is a much different approach. And again, this is only on the field or on screen for a fraction of a second. The only reaction that I can see in people is if someone does share it. This 100% will be on Bilibili. Like, I'm on Bilibili with like 20,000 views. Like, they re-upload a lot over there. So this will definitely get seen. And I'm somewhat excited to see the reaction it will get.
Do you have any other comments on the overall storyline? Okay. I can write an essay for this. I want the story to have a spine and let writers take risks. I will be disappointed if it's dumbed down and basic.
What I will also add on to that, though, and again, I'm not trying to excuse the game. I'm just trying to give the thought process to why I am thinking with zero hope, right? If I would like it to be more RTS, as I said before, it's just not going to be. And same with the story. We learned very quickly with companies going into the 3D space with a very, very successful, non-open world, non-semi-open world, whatever you want to call it, right? Game, like PGR into WUA, Arknights into Enfield, list doesn't really go on. Azerlane into Premilia, but we haven't seen that more yet. WUA bent the knee and folded to all the community outrage when the story was gritty instantly, because the people you ran into, like Chixia and stuff, they were very, very cautious and very rude to you in the story concept. And all the fans who played it lost their minds in that beta. You know what they did? They instantly changed that. It was swapped straight away. We felt it when the game came out because the story was so loose and so boring and so goddamn just shallow. It took until Renacida to fix that. So I believe they're going to stick to their guns, and just in general, when you have these companies taking these huge financial risks with a 3D open world gacha game, they want to please the lowest common denominator rather than take the giga risk and have it still pay off. That's just the reality of it all. Not that I'm saying it's okay, but that is the reality.
Wait, no.
One thing that bumps me about Enfield is how some of the gameplay systems are parallel to Genshin, which led to misconceptions. Exactly that, again, and that's the fault of Hypergriff, Griffline.
Angelina!
Angie, that's not how you abuse gravity.
Angie, no. I'm sorry.
Lowest common denominator is what you say, yes. Really when you want to please the most people, it's the lowest common. Isn't it? Or is it highest? Either way, you know what I mean.
Obviously, it needs refining and stuff.
You do understand not many people will agree with you.
Yeah, I know. As long as they're actually playing the alpha and understand what the vision is and what it's asking of them, it's totally fine.
It's lowest? Okay, cool.
All I can reasonably ask of someone is to think for themselves, right?
And again, guys, keep in mind, this is one man's opinion.
I can't fucking wait for this game's full release.
If you disagree, whatever. Don't be a dick about it.
Alpha. It's like a really bare bones version of this game, and it's already I've just been unable to put it down. Just actually insane. I'm so excited, dude. I can't wait.
I really wish I got to play the tech test, man. I really do. It's such a shame.
It's a little weird to talk about it this way because it was literally only a year ago. But
I'm watching Enfield.
This video in the first place because I need to express how it made me feel. I had so much optimism for what the game could be. But now that optimism is becoming silent lamentation. If Enfield continues on the path it's currently on, every gacha developer with an eye on this game will see the trend. Originality is overrated and the path to success lies in imitation. The men in suits will take notice, and unique, interesting ideas with oceans of potential will not even see the light of sunrise.
I feel like this, honestly, this should be more of a conversation of the gaming industry as a whole, rather than just Griffline wanting to be cookie cutter. The gaming industry right now is in the worst place. Every time a game is even successful, they still lay people off and lose jobs, and the game, has a huge stint of just being shit for a while. It's just in general, gaming is not in a good spot. So that's why you can't take these risks, because the suits and ties that invest the money into it, if it isn't self-funded from the studio, yeah, don't want risk. They want return on interest, right? Return on investment, ROI. So like I don't want to say this is Griffline's fault or Hypergriff or whoever you want to say who is putting the money into this game. We're splitting hairs with that either way. It's the nature of the business right now that they can't be risky, because why would they want that? It doesn't make sense from a financial perspective. But again, as a passionate gamer, they should take the risk every time. But they're never gonna. Especially Marvel Rivals. Exactly. Marvel Rivals is like gigapop. It's like the biggest game in the world right now, barring what, League, which has like always been the biggest game in the world. And they still closed like their American branch. It's just a telltale sign of the times when it comes to gaming that you can't be adventurous with people's money, even if, because let's keep, okay, better yet, let's keep it a fucking buck. If this game is popular and they took the hard pivot and made it super experimental and it paid off huge, it wouldn't make any more money. It would make the same amount, because it would have just more diehards on it that would probably spend money versus the, you know, the more of the casuals that would rather play the basic hack and slash gameplay, right? And whenever I mention that, people called me dumb, being like, oh, why do you want hack and slash? I'm like, I don't, but that's what they want to do. They're just kind of trying to find a middle ground. Yeah, financially, they don't get anything from it taking that risk. They would only do it if they're passionate. And they are passionate, but they don't get to make the decisions. And by they, I mean the devs. It's a shame. It really is. There are a few upcoming titles that look promising, but yeah, Game Industry is not in the best spot. No, it's not. And that also extends the gacha. Gacha is a hot button topic because everyone wants to make a gacha game because they make so much fucking money, right? This is the gold rush era. At the end of next year, we're going to have like 7 in total, 7 to 10 open world gacha games. That is insane to even think about.
Enfield is a dying canary.
Passionate about graphics? Yeah, pretty much.
That canary may not be dead yet.
There's some gacha gonna make more skins. I don't get it either.
Griff is interested in saving it. What could have been the harbinger of a golden age could instead doom itself to be the death knell of gacha games.
He said the title of the video. No way.
I have given every possible piece of feedback I can give to the developers. And so I have done all that I can to convince them to remain faithful to the vision they clearly had.
Mm-hmm.
For now, I can only hope the decisions which need to be made will be made by those who are just as enchanted with that vision as I am. And I won't be left wondering what could have been.
It is a banger of video though. Oh my days. He did well. He cooked. Hey, what's up, Rasta? What a video. But yeah, like, again, if you haven't already, please go to Tobo in the description below. Go to the video, like it, subscribe, pass on the love. This video would have taken forever to make. And he made a lot of good points. Ultimately, what I want to kind of say, at least in the aspect of, I think, you know, he had a lot of good points. And like, I agree 100%. The worst part of my opinion, the beta was the story was fucking cheeks. He spent entire months of video and it shows. He made a banger of a video, but yeah, the story is cheeks. It's the, like, I love the concept behind it. It feels like it could be something really special, but ultimately it's just not there. I agree they need to tweak a lot of the combat, but it does come down to a personal preference question. Do you want it to be hack and slash like Woo-Wah, or do you want it to be that RTS kind of gameplay? Both have pros and cons, but if you want to look at it from the dev perspective, they're going to pick the hack and slash every time because it's a proven method that always fucking works. And no one wants to be a pioneer in the gaming industry because you never fucking make money. That's just the truth of the matter. The Enfield alone told you. Yeah. Yeah, I would prefer it to be more of that RTS niche thing, but with what I played in the beta, the truth of the matter is this game is wanting to be hack and slash, but they don't want to give up. They don't want to let go of that little piece of identity that they're trying to meld in there for some reason to keep it this kind of weird, hybridized RTS real-time hack and slash, which shouldn't even be a sentence to say. They made a banger. They made a great game. The game will be good on release. I do think this video is a little bit I wouldn't say overreactive, but it feels a bit more doomy than the reality really is. The reality of the fucking gacha space is right now, a gacha game that has a constant cycle update with a roadmap and good characters is a successful game. We're kind of leaning more towards gacha games being log in, play 5 minutes, log out, and GG go next, you're done till next patch for dailies and like quest lines and stuff. And we have seen it does need identity, but even with or without the identity, the issues do lie in what does it want to, well, I mean, that's identity, what does it want to be? But the story needs fixing like you wouldn't fucking believe. I honestly don't mind what game we do end up getting. It looks like we'll probably be receiving the hack and slash variant of the game, which is fine by me. I would love to have seen a risk, but as I said 1,000 times in this video, risk adverse is the way you invest, right? And that's who is putting the money in the game, investors, which sucks. But if we talk from a passionate perspective, the sky's the fucking limit. Ultimately, it's a shame the way the game is going. With it had an idea and it just folded and went cookie cutter. But hey, there's still a chance we'll get another. Look, in my opinion, we get 2 betas more at least. Okay, I don't think this game releases off 1 more beta unless that beta gets insanely received. Okay, we yet to test mobiles anyway. So with all of that said and everything that we have watched, please go follow and subscribe to Tobo. Not to mention, also, let me know in the description, or let me know in the comments below if you do like, dislike some of the takes in here. Keep in mind, if your opinion differs, just be civil, don't be a dick about it. Like, fucking hell. I get gacha games are gacha games and this crazy tribalism, but they're 3D characters, anime men and women that we all want to fuck. Who cares, right? Just be constructive about it and keep it civil. And especially, by all means, go over to Tobo and show support to put their heart and soul into this video. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye now.